Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the IVMF Virtual Hangout with Pitch Elevator Competition winners of IVMF Virtual Pitch Competition. And today with us, we have all 5 winners. Going from first place, we have Kirkland Kudram, and second place we have Lawrence Richards, and third place we have Derek Safko, and fourth place Mark Grady, and fifth place Kevin Fairbanks. Before I let everybody introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their business, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Elvis Avdic, and I work with the Institute for Veterans and Military Families at Post-Program Support Services for Entrepreneurship Programs. I work with the Entrepreneurship Bootcamp for Veterans with Disabilities, EBV, IVMF, Entrepreneurship Bootcamp for Veterans with Disability and Family Members, and I work with VWISE, Veteran Women Igniting Entrepreneurship Spirit. Okay, so now I'm gonna pass down mic to the Kevin. He's EBVSU grad 2016, and I'll have him talk a little about himself.
Thank you, Elvis. My name's Kevin Fairbanks. I own Pink Tie Technology Group. We provide websites and digital marketing for the small business community. We help businesses establish themselves on the internet as well as grow and market their business.
Thank you, Kevin. And I'll have Mark Grady introduce himself as well.
My name is Mark Grady. I'm with Off Duty Blue. It's a security scheduling software for police officers to help bridge the gap between clients and law enforcement and secondary employment. Graduated from Syracuse University, EBV. Just trying to get going right now.
Derek?
Hey guys, I'm Derek Safko. I'm a EBV Cornell graduate, currently an MBA student at University of Colorado. The company that we're creating right now is Passkey. We are an RFID-enabled cell phone case that allows users to use their cell phones to access any RFID-enabled lock, whether it be your apartment, workspace, office. So you eliminate the need to carry around these fobs, and now can simply use your cell phone to access these different workspaces and apartments.
And Kirkland.
All right, hello everybody. My name is Kurt Kudernow. I am with Grit Trader. That is a ag resource equipment sharing application that essentially be useful for people in the ag community to share resources with each other and quickly and easily get back to the green, get back into the black. Right now, the ag economy is in a serious condition, and we're working to resolve that with them.
Thank you. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. So let me just summarize our session today. So basically, we're gonna talk about a little bit about what have you done so far to prepare yourself for the pitch competition, and any advice that you will give for our other graduates, our colleagues, for future competitions as well, and any other advice you might have. So just let everybody know online, this is being recorded and it's going to be posted later on, so you can watch it for your needs. But if you're online right now and if you have any questions, you can type it in under our YouTube channel, and we'll receive those, and we will ask the audience. Thank you. So let me guys ask you questions. So how much time did you spend on making your videos for this pitch competition? Lawrence?
First, I'll do a quick introduction if it's okay. So I'm a UConn 2015 graduate, and I'm the owner of Reflections of Service. It's a gifts and memorabilia company. I specialize in woodworking. So how much time did I spend on this? My wife's in the background laughing right now because I spent a lot of time on it. Probably 3 days on and off, where I spent probably the first session, I did a rough draft and actually worked it out and just kind of threw my brain onto a piece of paper and tried it out. And then the second day I started recording, and I ran into a little bit of a wall. We have airplanes flying by about every 92 seconds here sometimes. So it seemed like I was running into that a lot. And then by the third day, I was well practiced enough with it that within the first sort of half an hour or so of recording, I got it. So I spent a good 3 days on and off working on my competition.
You, Kirk?
All right. Well, same here. I mean, I spent a significant amount of time actually, primarily because I kind of suck talking in front of people, but also I am currently an activated reservist at Cybercom. So like spending time, I wanted to get a video of me outside because my thing's ag. And so in the DC Beltway area, there's not a whole lot of farms. So I went out to Manassas Battlefield a couple times and then out by some battlefields in Maryland, just because they're the closest thing to get that looks like a field. But yeah, just in terms of like that logistics component, but then also making sure that I had everything right. The benefit that I had was that I'm neglected to mention that I'm a Purdue EBV 2016 grad. So we just like got done at the last week of October. So we kind of had, that was kind of tied into our EBV with a little bit of this prep. And then also worked with a bunch of the EBV alumni and mentors at Purdue while there, and then after having left over the next week, continued to refine it. So it was not an insignificant lift on my part to get it done.
Thank you, Kirk. Kevin, what about you?
For me, I spent a few days, but like Kirk, I graduated in the July 16 class at SU. So we had just recently done a lot of the pitches and honing in on what your business does. I spent a few days trying to put together what I wanted as a message to come out. And then, I started brainstorming how I wanted the video to go, what I was expecting. And I came up with this really great plan. And then I decided I better go check the rules first. And I had to throw that plan out the window and start over. So I sat down with the camera and had to do a couple takes at it because of background noise, like some of the other guys were saying, or things that just didn't work right. Like you get about halfway through your sentence and you mess something up. So trying to get it done in one take without editing was interesting. So, but I was able to pull it out and turn in what I had submitted.
Thank you, Kevin. Derek?
Yeah, so I was in the same boat like Kevin. I actually have been competing in one of my school's business plan competitions, and so their rules were completely different from these rules. So I created a 90-second business plan, or a 90-second elevator pitch, and you can edit it, you can make it look all fancy, and so I had to kind of start from scratch with that. And making a pitch go from 90 seconds to 60 seconds is very oddly difficult. So in total, yeah, it definitely took a few days, just saying the pitch with other people and getting their feedback. And one thing I did that helped out to an extent, because I didn't have the best lighting and best audio, but with iMovie, they actually have some great simple features for editing the video in terms of the background noise, taking out some noise, and just kind of increasing the quality slightly, which I know wasn't necessarily taken into account for the judging criteria, but it's always good to limit the background noise as much as possible, just because that can be a huge distractor. But yeah, it definitely took a few days to get this all started and wrapped up.
Thank you, Derek. How about you, Mark?
Yeah, I just want to echo what everyone's been talking about. There's a lot of frustration, especially moving from just actually writing the pitch and getting the time frame right to then start recording it, and between me just speaking over it versus recording, I'd always seem to mess something up and have to retake and frustration built. I had to take a couple walks, clear my head, but it turned out all right. Didn't have, like you said, the greatest material to work with in terms of lighting, and pretty satisfied that I actually sent something in, because there's a time where I just got so frustrated with how many times I kept messing up the simple things that I got for that, but then I'd mess it up, that I look back and see if we're going to do it. And I appreciate the recognition through all this, and having all these guys here and some insights is going to be powerful moving forward.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, so guys, all of you said you spend a lot of time preparing for the actual content of the pitch. So can you tell me more about like how did you base your content, from where, on what? Did you use like a judging criteria, or did you just come up with your own? So let's start with the Lawrence again.
So the first thing I did was I did look at the judging criteria, and that helped quite a bit. And then I looked at the tips that the IVMF put out on that. And then this was before I actually started writing it all. I watched a lot of elevator pitches on YouTube, and got down a lot of sidetracks, and actually found a new TV show put on by Marcus Lemonis about elevator pitches, and I watched those for a while. So I spent some research time doing that, and that's where I really got the idea of what I liked in an elevator pitch, what seemed like it was convincing to me. And then I went back after that was done, and I re-looked at the rules again just to make sure that it fit.
Thank you, Lawrence. How about you, Kirk?
I pretty much just used the instruction that we got in the EBV. One of this year's Purdue EBV instructors gave a class on specifically elevator pitches, and I just pretty much noted what that was, double-checked the criteria, and went running. So I felt pretty well prepared with the actual EBV content.
Okay, good. Thank you. You have anything to say, Kevin? How did you get your content?
For me, I took the approach that I was writing a message that almost like writing an advertisement to a potential client. So that's where I kind of wrote my foundation for the message that I wanted to come across. And like Lawrence, I also looked at YouTube and saw some of those same videos from Marcus Lemonis. They're pretty good videos. After I wrote it, then I compared with what the judging criteria was, and found that most of what the judges were looking for, I already had written in there. Made a couple minor tweaks and then started recording it.
Thank you. How about you, Derek?
Yeah, it was the same way. Definitely looking at what the judges were judging our pitch on. That was one of the first things I looked at. And then after that, I just really looked at any kind of resource I could find online. It seemed like they all kind of had slightly different recommendations on how to really make your pitch that much better than the competitor. So I always like kind of looking at a full holistic view of what different people and different resources recommend. And that way you can kind of take a step back and look at your idea and see how your idea falls into each different category of, how to really make yours stand out. So yeah, that was key for me. And actually I liked your guys' idea in terms of YouTube. That's something I'll probably try next time. But for me, I just looked at different websites and different resources I could find regarding recommendations on, really, again, how to make yours stand out.
Thank you, Derek. And you, Mark?
I know for myself, it was being surrounded by my partner and my family. My partner is down in Raleigh, North Carolina, and he's done one pitch competition before now. And for being his first one, he came in second place, and he learned a lot from it. And so speak with the guys down there at that pitch competition, and then telling him about this, going through the rules, a little bit off of what he had already prepared. We couldn't use any slides or any features along those lines, and transitioned into something that worked for us. Things of advice he said was a birthday message where they're just to try to make it a conversation, so it's just you guys sitting around having a chat. Things that I took out of it.
Thank you, Mark. So many of you said you had something like outstanding in your pitch, and that you work on something to make it outstanding. So I would like to know, like, what part of the pitch did you want it to make outstanding? Like, what's the content in the pitch that you thought will be really important to stand out in your business that you talk about? Lawrence?
The biggest thing for me, Elvis, was really concentrating on making a value statement and having that come across strongly. So I was coming across not who I was, but what value I could provide the person I was talking to. And that seemed to me to be the key in all the tips I found everywhere. and it was the most difficult thing to actually do and successfully do.
Thank you, Lawrence. How about you, Kirk?
The main thing that I tried to focus on, I guess, was the problem statement to validate that there was a legitimate problem, or at least provide people with the assurance that what we were doing met a verifiable need. But then throughout the rest of it, the main focus was trying to demonstrate a comprehensive approach, that we had thought of everything we needed to, and we could impart a sense of surety on the listener's side, that we were somebody that they could trust to get the job done, and were competent in doing so.
Thank you, Kirk. Kevin, what about you? What did you make most outstanding in your pitch?
For me, it was stressing the fact of the need. Telling the businesses that if they continue their ways of just simply being in the yellow pages and trying to hang a sign out front of their shop, that they're going to go out of business. Those ways are not the way to bring in clients anymore. So it was stressing that point of my services are a need to them.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Derek?
Yeah, so I had, there's two different issues that I was trying to resolve to really make it pop. And my biggest, one of the first things was that I was kind of keeping my problem very broad. And with RFID technology, it's used in apartments, used in workspaces, it's used at gyms, hotels. And for my first pitch, I really kind of kept it very broad and vague. And I had to narrow that down for this pitch to really make it stand out that much more, to show that I was really focused on one market versus trying to hit every target all at once. So that was a huge thing for me, as well as really clearly showing that there was a market, and showing an actual objective size to the market. Because obviously without a sizable market that you have a clear target market to focus on, no investor is going to want to invest in you. So that was a key thing to really focus on as well, is just the problem and the market size, and the fact that you actually portray, or ensuring that you can clearly show that you know who the market is and how to reach them.
That's good. Thank you, Derek. How about you, Mark?
One of my biggest things was with my concept, sometimes it's hard trying to educate the customer that it's even existing. And not a lot of people are used to secondary employment for police officers, are aware of that it's happening all over the country all the time by pen and paper and word of mouth. So without spending a lot of time and explaining all that to them, forced that I'm familiar with it, EBV pitch that I followed up here was that I'm a police officer, and it kind of gives me a little bit more credibility that, yeah, I'm familiar with this and subject matter expert. So while you may talk about your product a lot, sometimes just putting that one little sentence in, or a word or two about yourself to really validate it, really helps out.
Thank you, Mark. So that was a good point from you guys. But I heard you also worked very hard on this audio pitches. So my question is to you is, how many of you went over 90 seconds first time when you practice your pitch? And how did you cut it down to 90 seconds? Like, what is the most least important things that you thought should go? Lawrence?
I definitely went over 90 seconds. The first 200 or 300 times that I recorded it. And I listened to it, and it's how I got rid of things was by listening to it and going back to my paperwork where I'd listed what I wanted to get out, and sort of separating the wheat from the chaff, but taking out the stuff that I thought was essential to let my listener hear about in 90 seconds, and getting rid of the rest, and then making sure that I could do it in a way that I could still be slow. In fact, the first time I practiced through my cut down version, I was about 20 seconds short. And what that let me do was slow down my elevator pitch. and actually emphasize certain words because I knew that was a judging criteria. So that's a little trick that I used, was I actually forced it shorter and then was able to slow down and emphasize things.
Thank you, Lawrence. How about you, Kirk?
Very, very similarly, you know, I spent probably 20 hours practicing it, only because, like, again, I live in the Beltway, so I have a ton of time in the car. So I just sat there and would continuously do it, and got to the point where I was going through it all in one take, and then would time myself and see how much time I had to know how much I had to get rid of. But, you know, being pithy and to the point is extremely valuable. So I just looked for whatever ways to compress the concepts so that each word mattered, and there wasn't a whole lot of, you know, like adjectives or pronouns or whatever, and just made sure that each word was as impactful as possible, again, so that I could be slow and clear and concise and pithy, but yet deliver a strong message.
Thank you. Kevin?
For me, pretty much the same as these guys were saying, you know, multiple takes to get it down under, reducing the duplication and repetitiveness of some of the stuff within my talk, and then just speeding up in certain areas and slowing down to emphasize on key words. I just took a look, and of the takes that I saved, I've got 38 of them on my computer before I did my final submission. So it wasn't a one take and get it done. It, you know, it takes several rounds before you perfect it.
Thank you, Kevin. What about you, Derek?
Yeah, so and I think I need to correct myself from before. My prior pitch that I was working on for my school was 2 minutes. So I had to get it down from 2 minutes to 90 seconds. And what I found out with that was that I was trying to tell too much of a story to really get people's emotions invoked for what the problem was and how large of a problem this was. So at first I had to really condense that story down to just to ensure it's very clear and concise versus just a drawn out story. So that was one big thing. And then I feel like with everybody will have a slightly different aspects of their pitch that they can remove. And you know, obviously there's all kinds of fluff that we can notice to take out little bits of. But I know another thing of mine is I talked about getting a patent attorney involved. So now that we're patent pending and we don't have any barriers to entry to really worry about as much as we did before. So that was a huge thing I condensed down to simply, 3 words saying, now we're patent pending. So, I think it's just all about looking at your fluff and seeing, what fluff you could remove. And a lot of times the pitcher doesn't really realize what the fluff is. So a lot of times I feel like getting others to look at it and they can go through your pitch and kind of cross out different areas that to them aren't as valuable. Whereas you, as, this is your baby, you think everything is gold. But somebody else that doesn't really fully have that time and emotion invested into your pitch and your idea, they can look at certain things and help you take out a few different, few non-keywords to really get it down to that 90 seconds. So I think again, just getting other people to look at it and remove the fluff that they feel is fluff is definitely something that helps out quite a bit.
Thank you, Derek. What about you, Mark?
I know for getting it down underneath 90 seconds was a task, and trying to figure out what you want to save, what you want to cut, what you want to alter. One of the things I really tried myself in trying to do was getting it down so I had maybe 8 seconds to spare, because I knew at certain parts in the speech I wanted those situational pauses where it let whatever my previous statement was kind of resonate with the listener before I moved on, so they actually had some time to absorb it. So just when you're setting aside your time, try to make sure that you give yourself a little bit extra, just because sometimes that pause is just as powerful as throwing a lot of words in there.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you all. So my next question is, a lot of you talk about, having practice in front of somebody or having support of somebody. So I want to ask you, who was your biggest support during this pitch preparation, and how much did that mean to you during this competition? Lawrence?
Well, like I just sent out in the messaging, my wife was absolutely my biggest supporter through this, along with my kids. and I couldn't have done it without them. But I also couldn't have kind of done it to the level that I felt like I got to without sort of the humor that she helped bring to it, laughing along with me at mess ups, and especially when I would think I had it and I would get to the very end and I'd mess up the last like second or two, and being able to laugh and enjoy the process as much made it a lot less stressful for me, and then also made it to where I was able to learn and enjoy the process. But my wife, without a doubt.
Thank you, Lawrence. Kirk?
You got, so there was 3 people from the Purdue program that really provided a lot of feedback. Well, 4 people. One was a married couple, the K's. They were instrumental, as was Tom Hustad, and then Dr. Deval-Cotil all provided me feedback and a couple rounds of feedback. So that was instrumental, and wouldn't have come up with the product I did without them. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kirk. Kevin, what about you?
Well, first and foremost, it would be my girlfriend and my family for being here to support me. But without the training that I got from EBV, I don't think I would have been able to do it. You know, the foundation that you guys give us at the class get us ready for giving these pitches and going out and promoting our businesses.
Derek?
Yeah, so I first started out with just friends, and that's obviously always good to get their feedback to an extent. But my problem was that they were in my target market, so they already understood the problem. So then I actually pitched to my professor, who is not in my target market. He does not use RFIDs. He does not live in an apartment, so he didn't fully understand the problem. And he really, you know, basically told me that, hey, you know, I get it. They understood the problem, and they saw this pitch as being great because they are part of your target market, so they fully understand what's going on. But he, you know, gave me some great feedback just because he did not fully understand the problem, because he did not, you know, have to deal with that on a day-to-day basis. So that was a huge thing for me, is to get the feedback from somebody that is not in my target market, that does not truly understand the problem that I'm trying to sell.
Thank you, Derek. What about you, Mark?
I think my biggest support for at least this pitch was definitely my partner, Jim Rochelle, a fellow Marine, deployed with him through thick and thin. And the fact that he went up, did his first pitch competition, and could get it out of the way, kind of paved the way for me, and then for us to both hash it out over a couple beers made life a lot easier.
Thank you, Mark. So all of you had feedback. My next question for you guys is, how did you handle feedback? Was it most of positive, negative? You know, how did you react to positive feedback, and how did you react to negative feedback as well? Lawrence?
Well, I'm used to lots of feedback from my wife, so so that made it a little bit easier on me there. She's pretty good at calling the baby ugly. With things to do with my business, especially. And when I was going down a path that wasn't the right path, I actually did this time have a little bit of resistance, because there was a piece of me that was like, well, I think I know what I want to do, and maybe you're just not understanding it. And she was able to just sort of smile and say, yeah, but who are you speaking to? Are you speaking to yourself? Or like I was mentioning before, making sure that I was speaking to an audience. And that was great to have that feedback. I would say that without feedback, none of us could have done as well as we did. And it was really essential to hear that outside voice come in and sort of say, okay, this is where you need to kind of change your vector a little bit.
Thank you, Lawrence. What about you, Kirk?
I think I got more negative feedback in my like EBB final, no kidding, pitch, the 20-minute deal. And really took to heart what the audience was saying in that. And so therefore, when I worked on my, you know, elevator pitch, didn't elicit as many negative responses, because I'd already dealt with them and addressed those problems previously. So I had a relatively peaceful experience doing the elevator pitch this time around.
Thank you, Kirk. What about you, Kevin?
For me, I get a lot of feedback on everything I do. Sometimes I tend to take it a little more personal. When to me it comes second nature, I totally understand the message I'm trying to get across, and I don't realize at the beginning when somebody gives me that feedback that they're trying to tell me that I'm not explaining it enough for somebody who doesn't know the technical terms or something else I'm doing. So I tend to try and take that now into consideration when I get that feedback and take it as, okay, I need to rephrase it and kind of more or less dumb it down to somebody who doesn't work in the industry and understand what I do.
Thank you, Kevin. Derek, what about you?
Yeah, so I'm kind of like Kevin, to where a lot of times some of the feedback, when it's certain areas of your pitch or your business plan that you've really been focusing on, and you feel like these certain aspects are the bread and butter, and then somebody shoots them down, you're like, oh, that's, how's that possible? You try to resist quite a bit. But, again, I think that's what's good about getting feedback from a lot of different people, is that once you do see more than one person give you that negative, that constructive feedback, you realize, okay, well, you actually be able to take that to heart and, account for that. So, it's difficult, but luckily with this pitch, it's 90 seconds goes by so quick that at the end of the feedback, you realize, okay, well, if I need to cut this out or change this, you're so limited on time. You really want to make it as strong and as compelling as possible. So, if multiple people are giving you the same feedback, you just have to kind of bite the bullet and go ahead and make that change. And then regarding the positive feedback, obviously that's great to hear. It gives you confidence to really get up and really give the best pitch as possible with that confidence, kind of pushing you forward.
Thank you. And you, Mark?
I think for me, the biggest thing is I'm mostly a straight shooter, and when it comes to feedback, sometimes I can be a little too critical. And if I get that positive feedback, I'm always like, all right, no, but really, tell me what you think, or what did I miss there? What can I change? I'm always looking to improve, and I think that's something that as an entrepreneur is always going to resonate with us, where we got to continue to try to evolve. But just take that positive feedback for what it is, and that you're doing a lot of great things. So very, very important to have positive and negative feedback when you're trying to push forward and do things such as this pitch.
Yeah, thank you, guys. So most of you mentioned that you had outside resources that you reached out to, either professionals or somebody that help you, guide you with your pitch. How important was to have a resource for making this presentation? Lawrence?
It was pretty important. I would say the outside resources through the IVMF, and then just the internet. It's yet another case where, having a business computer that was, provided to me by the EBV came in handy, because I was able to really concentrate on the online resources, and that's mostly what I used. I did go back to my EBV notes on elevator pitches, and it seemed like that was a good thing too. But that's about it as far as outside resources that I used.
You, Kirk?
Well, as I mentioned, I pretty much strictly went on EBV and IVMF resources, so outside resources was everything for me, and from this program. So, thanks.
Kevin?
For me, it was taking a look at what other people were doing, watching some videos of people that did pitches, to watch for the different types. You see people that were, taking the approach of talking to a customer, people that were talking to investors, people that are just getting the general idea of their business out there. So that opened up my eyes, because initially, I think of a pitch as a competition that you're going at looking for an investor to gain money. And I realized there was other avenues that could be used in that pitch.
Thank you. Derek?
Yeah, so kind of like I said earlier, just resources-wise online, whether it be through EBV or just any online resources, I like to see as much as possible and absorb as much as possible. And again, some sites recommend different things, and it's just really trying to merge and see which resources, which recommendations really fit the best with your pitch and your idea. And, you know, because the different audiences that are going to be listening to your pitch, you know, not all of them really, I guess, have the same viewpoint. So it's, you know, same with how you pitch. I feel like it's good to see all the different resources and seeing how you could really fit that to your idea. That way it is compelling to not only investors, but also future customers.
Thank you, Derek.
I'll definitely
Mark?
have to agree with Derek, where there's a lot of different styles out there, and you can go on YouTube channels and talk to other people from their experiences. But what I took the most out of it was trying to get a little bit out of each of those and developing my own style, which worked best for me. Trying to else's style doesn't always work for you. Just take a little bit of everybody's pitches and styles and put it into your tool belt, and come up with a style that you're familiar with was one of the biggest things. Because all I did was just talk to my partner from his one pitch that he did, subject matter expert, and go to YouTube. I think the best advice I can give is just do your research, but then just works what's best for you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everybody. So I think those would be all my questions. We don't have any questions online yet, but if anybody has watching live, if you have any questions, please let us know. But now, the only last thing I would like to ask these guys is, what type of advice would you guys have going for future competitions would you give to your fellow veterans and fellow entrepreneurs who are looking to make similar pitches? Because right now, if you guys haven't noticed, StreetShares is having some kind of award competition as well, where you have to submit your video, and they're having monthly. First place 5,000, second place 3,000, and like a third place is 2,000. So you should all guys try. But like when I ask these guys who already done it and won, what type of advice would they give you forward in other competitions? Like, how can you best make your own pitch? Lawrence, let's start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I do that, I thought of one more outside resource that isn't sort of intuitive, and I wanted to add that. I actually watched a lot of Kickstarter videos as well, because I tried to think of people that were selling themselves, and that's how I ended up getting the cadence for my video, was from a Kickstarter put out by a guy named Dan Shapiro, who is a really good salesman. And that's where I got the cadence for my actual pitch. So anyway, Kickstarter was another great resource. As far as looking at what advice I'd give people in other competitions, and Elvis, you know, I've entered the business plan competition and the pitch competition from EBV as well. The biggest thing that I learned after the first part of it, and I got some advice from one of the mentors at EBV, was I set aside specific time that I worked on that. And it was outside of my normal sort of time that I worked on things. For the business plan, for example, I set my alarm an extra hour early. And that was almost a very specific thing I did, where that even if I was planning on spending 3 hours that morning on the competition, or 4 hours that morning on working on my business plan, I had that extra hour that I did. And it was almost sort of sometimes it was in the morning, sometimes it was at night, sometimes I would set aside a specific lunch, but I actually planned that time. And it helped me sort of, I think, get a little bit of an edge over myself as far as my planning, because it always felt like extra, like golden time. It was something I hadn't really expected to get, and then it helped me hone things that were on my checklist even further down. So plan extra time. And then a big other thing that I did was I always tried to really seek out previous winners for similar competitions and see if I could, you know, read the business plan or listen to the business pitch, the elevator pitch online, and see if I could see not just what I was looking for, but what judges were looking for in those cases, and replicate those things. And those are the two biggest takeaways I had from these competitions.
Thank you, Lawrence. What about you, Kirk? Where's your advice?
I'd say I would focus on demonstrating, kind of like I had said before, demonstrating competence and like, for my pitch at least, kind of going back to Kevin's point, my pitch was to solicit funding or ultimately to solicit money for to build my prototype app. And therefore, I felt I needed to convince investors that I was somebody worth investing in and that I knew what I was talking about, and they could be confident that I would not waste their money. And that's one of the most important decisions that they can make and will make. And guess what? I'm the right guy for the job. So that was a position that I took, and I, feel like that, at least for that audience and that particular kind of message, was appropriate, and really focused hard on demonstrating those aspects of my business plan that would send that kind of message.
Thank you, Kurt. Kevin, so what is your advice?
My advice would be to stick with it. Don't give up. Keep trying, you'll get there. Like these other guys said, do your homework, look at what other people have done that have won these contests, and evaluate you compared to that, and see how you rank. See what you can do to improve. If you didn't win something, doesn't mean give up. Refine, figure out where you didn't go right, and then correct it and move forward. There's always another competition out there.
Thank you. Derek.
Yeah, so I would definitely say just overall clarity is key, obviously. But more so, I like to start things like methodically and have a process and look at everything one at a time. So obviously a huge thing is your value proposition. Make sure that individually is clear. Your target market, make sure you know who they are. Its size, make sure you can very clearly show the size of it. And then once you have all of those clear individually, then look at how you can kind of merge those together and tell a story. But if individually those things are not clear, once you kind of merge them into a story and put it out in pitch, it's not going to become any clearer. So clarity is key. And again, just looking at everything one at a time really helped me.
Thank you, Derek. What about you, Mark? What is your advice for our audience?
My advice is, from personal experience, I can't stand talking in front of people. It's not my forte at all. My partner, Jim, is the face of the company. So my advice coming from that background is just commit. Choose to start flowing and commit to something, because as veterans, we're not going to let ourselves fall down. I mean, if you make that commitment and have somebody hold you to it.
Thank you, Mark. So Mark brought up a good point, guys. He mentioned about being committed to this and being afraid of public speaking. How many of you were kind of not comfortable getting in front of a camera and talking about your business? How many of you had that issues, and how did you commit to doing a presentation, and how did you resolve it, pretty much? Lawrence?
Fortunately, I've got the gift of gab, Elvis. So, as you know, I'm actually fairly comfortable talking, and I wasn't always, but I got through that just through practice, and the military helps too. So,
what about you, Kirk?
Like I said, I went out in the country where there was nobody around, and so that was the best place I felt comfortable, was down the middle of a field without anybody around.
Awesome. Kevin?
For me, I was absolutely petrified. I've been procrastinating on a couple things with my business to do some video like training, as well as a new method that we brought into for some of our prospects, that we do a video message going to them. After sitting down and going through my 40+ takes there of this pitch competition, it got me over that. I've since, started doing that prospecting method with video, and it's come back tenfold. I've had clients come back to say that it's different what I'm doing with them, So to me, it got me over that hurdle by entering into this competition.
Good. Derek?
Yeah, I'm the same as everybody else. I hate public speaking, let alone when there's a camera involved. So it simply just took a lot of practice, a lot of takes. I actually had a friend in the room while I was doing the takes, and I had him leave because I was like, I can't do this with you here as well. So, everybody kind of works a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, if this isn't your forte, it just takes time and a lot of takes, but you'll get it done. It's just, make sure you have the time to commit to it.
Awesome. Thank you, Derek. And you, Mark?
I think, you know, it does take a lot of takes, but kind of allow that deadline to be your friend, because I'd probably still be doing takes if there wasn't an actual deadline associated with it. So line yourself up, do your research, get prepared, start trying to get that skill honed in. But in the end, just know the deadline's coming and push the send button. Be done with it.
Awesome. So thank you guys again very much. If you guys have any other things, experience that you learned during this pitch presentation, if you'd like to share, please let me know right now. But besides that, I think we're good to go, unless anybody has anything else to add. Lawrence?
I'm sure that we're all going to have the same thing to add here, so I'll be the first to say it. Just wanted to thank you, all of us, for taking the time to work on this, and the IVMF and Prudential Financial. It's a really important thing for us as we build our businesses to have the support network that's helping us. So, and let me just be the first one to say, you know, thank you to everyone that participated, and then everyone that supports this program.
Thank you, Lawrence, and thank you all for submitting your pitches, and did an awesome job. And like I say, hopefully this will continue, and in the future we're gonna have more events and more competitions. So please submit your competitions for a chance to win. And anybody else, if you have anything to add, this will be a time.
I would say get as much feedback as possible. You know, whether it be feedback for your pitch, feedback for your business plan, feedback for your slides. You know, the more feedback, the better. You know, you really cannot get enough feedback. Feedback is key.
Thank you, Derek.
The only thing I was going to say, Elvis, was, you know, this competition has essentially kickstarted the validation and legitimacy to other people as we interface with them. You can be like, you know, we're also, you know, have been blessed to have won this, and that is an accelerant to our success. So thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me and joining this hangout. I just want to say congratulations again on winning your pitches, and good luck. And like I say, I'll keep in touch with you for notice. All right, everybody. Have a good day. Enjoy. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thanks, you too. Take care.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care, guys.